Welcome to the dawn. You have just accessed the presentation experience. This experience will cover who the F is Tora Tora, the most beautiful girl in the world, the beautiful experience, Glam Slam Ulysses, and more. Please enjoy your experience.
Welcome everybody, my name is Edgar, and today I want to ask you the question, who the fuck is Tora Tora? While the world was still coming to terms with Prince's name change in 1993, he once again took on a new name in 1995 for the New Power Generation album Exodus. And one can even argue that Tora Tora, the character of Tora Tora, along with all the other characters and alter egos that Prince adopted throughout the years, might have emerged as part of a form of dissociative identity disorder. Let's dive in. Dissociative identity disorder is more commonly known as multiple personality disorder, characterized by the presence of multiple personality states or alters. And although we don't know if Prince was ever officially diagnosed, we do know that he had hinted towards that condition. Here's a clip from 1996 in which he tells Oprah Winfrey that there is another person living inside of him, someone he created at the age of 5.
There you go.
Literally, like another personality you're talking about.
Well, what they seemed to find was that it was someone I had created when I was 5 years old.
Really?
Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, I'm not sure yet, but I hope to find out.
They, like psychologists, therapists?
Well, actually, I found out because I took someone through therapy. So.
And you found out that there is another person living inside you.
This is turning into a civil interview.
No. Does that person have a name that we could call?
That's what is so interesting to me, is that I think that's why I changed my name. I think that's who I am now.
Really?
I very much feel divorced from Prince.
You really do?
Yes.
The diagnosis is sometimes controversial, largely due to disagreement on how the disorder develops. There are two theoretical models that lead to opposing conclusions. Both could apply to Prince. Some support the trauma model, viewing the disorder as an organic response to severe childhood trauma, typically starting before 5 or 6 years of age. This fits neatly with what Prince says in the Oprah Winfrey interview, although it is symbol that does the talking here. And there are obvious hints towards childhood trauma in songs like The Sacrifice of Victor and Papa. The other hypothesis about the development of dissociative identity disorder is the so-called sociogenetic model, a non-trauma related model that is also referred to as the fantasy model. This suggests that dissociative identity disorder is developed through high fantasy proneness or suggestibility, role-playing, or sociocultural influences. When you read the parts that Prince wrote for his unfinished memoir, The Beautiful Ones, there is plenty of evidence for that model as well. And with this book in hand, it's probably best to go all the way back to the beginning. On June 7, 1958, Prince is born. He's the first child of John L. Nelson and Mattie Shaw. Born in June, he's a Gemini by star sign. John L. Nelson is a factory worker at Honeywell. In his free time, he leads a jazz combo under his stage name Prince Rogers. The band size fluctuates, so he performs around Minneapolis either as the Prince Rogers Trio, Prince Rogers Combo, or even Prince Rogers Orchestra. John Nelson decided to name his newborn son after his musical alter ego. In the book The Beautiful Ones, Prince writes that he suspects that his father did this to annoy his mother. Mattie Shaw supposedly felt that John was too obsessed with his music. The idea is not too far-fetched, because if you look at the birth announcement, you'll see that his mother named him Skipper immediately after his birth. And if you browse through the images in the book, you'll see that she consistently calls him that. So to summarize, Prince was named after his father's alter ego, then immediately given a different identity by his mother. There are people who have experienced the identity crisis for less. And if you go through the earliest examples of Prince's songwriting that have surfaced throughout the years, you'll see he constantly is using different names. Here's an early draft for Soft and Wet. In the top right corner you can see that it was written by a certain Percy. And even though it was later credited to himself, along with Chris Moon, this is, as far as we know, the first time that Prince has used a pseudonym for song credits. But earlier in life he also used plenty of pseudonyms. As you can see here, Percy's full name is Percy Begonia, and there's also Dexter Cunningball, Alfred Hoxleby, Harriet Tubman, and a funky dude called Willie Jam Shakespeare. And there are many more. Fast forward to the early 1980s. Prince had just released 3 albums, and he's being interviewed in Amsterdam by journalist Mick Boskamp. He asks him about his potential work for others, and this is what Prince answers.
Are you going to produce other people?
I don't think so. No. I don't know. I think I think I'll be into something else before I start producing it.
Yeah.
I think I won't be doing music anymore.
No?
Yeah, I know I'm not going to do too much on it.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And as you can hear, or not, he's mumbling, Prince flatly denies that he'll be working with others. And on the surface that seems odd, as not long after, the Times debut album is released. But that album isn't produced by Prince. It's produced by one Jamie Starr. Was Prince lying? Maybe, but technically Prince wasn't collaborating with Morris Day on the Time album. It was Jamie Starr, and that was definitely a different persona. And to make things more complicated, the character of Morris Day, as heard on the albums as by the Time and as seen in the Purple Rain and Graffiti Bridge movies, was also created by Prince. Morris was the extension of Prince himself. He was the pimp, he was the gigolo, the figure he could not fit into his own musical work. And this character was portrayed by the actual Morris Day. Well, the complexities of that construction deserve their own presentation, and we're here to talk about the Exodus album. I will get to that later. But for now, check out Morris's book On Time, in which he acknowledges that he liked the role so much that the real Morris eventually merged and disappeared into the Morris Day that was created by Prince. And it doesn't change the fact that it was Prince who created that character, and as the yin to his yang. And here you see both characters together, and it's a rare shot as Jamie Starr usually just operated in the background. Jamie Starr's existence was sustained for a long time, not least because the Starr Company extended beyond the Time and began producing albums for Vanity 6, Apollonia 6 and Sheila E. The Jamie Starr character disappeared midway through the 1980s, and Prince began composing for others as Joey Coco, Alexander Nevermind and Christopher. And while doing so, Prince began working behind the scenes on a project that, for the first time in his career, was intended as an alter ego album. With a voice that had been pitched, Prince had become Camille. There are quite a few misconceptions about this character, the biggest one being that it's a female alter ego. The 1988 Lovesexy Tourbook essay clearly states that Camille is a boy. In fact, that boy is on the cover of that tourbook. At that point we had already heard the character on the Sign of the Times album. Camille was a vehicle for Prince to deliver his darker, sexually charged songs at a time when he, as Prince, had just found enlightenment. Live too, just watch the Bob George performance in which he very clearly introduces himself as Camille over the phone. Or as Bob George conscious.
Hello, this is George. This is Camille.
Camille dies in the song's finale. The enlightened Prince is resurrected in the second half of the show. Camille is literally left for dead after the Lovesexy era, as we never see the character again. And killing off characters is somewhat of a recurring theme within Prince's body of work. One can argue that at the end of Around the World in a Day, the raunchy and somewhat dangerous Prince is killed off, and from there the more clean and enlightened Prince was reborn. And in the music video for Bad Dance, the Gemini character seems to self-destruct. Gemini returns in a very different form in the comic Alter Ego, which essentially fuses the Bad Dance storyline with the Graffiti Bridge film. The idea of the character remains intact though. Like Jamie Starr, like Morris, like Camille and all the others, Gemini is the dark side to Prince's light side. Band members often said in interviews that they never knew who would enter the studio that day.
You never knew who was showing up. Is it the comedian coming in the door today? Is it the Ayatollah coming in the door today? You here to control things? You here to make folks laugh? How you feeling? You know, that kind of thing.
But it's the fact that one can never exist without the other. They need each other. Prince sang it quite clearly in 1992 on My Name is Prince. I got two sides and they're both friends. But he also sings the one and only. But that's not really true, is it? Because in fact he is. Like I said, there are people who experience an identity crisis for less. And in 1993, Prince seems to get rid of all the alter egos in his life. In the 7 music video we can see how several alter egos are destroyed, which was followed by the death of Prince and the birth of... But before we get to that, I want to step back in time a little bit once again. Check this out.
Recent analysis has proved that there's probably 2 people inside of me, just like a Gemini, and we haven't determined what sex that other person is yet.
Did you say I'm not even sure what sex it is, or he or she or it is? Did you say that?
Yeah.
I thought I heard that.
So here Prince acknowledges, or at least hints at, the fact that the other person inside of him, or one of the other persons, might very well be female. And that makes sense if you look back at the way Prince used to make women around him an extension of himself. Far-fetched? Let's dive in, starting with the famous Rolling Stone cover shoot with Vanity. Here they are posed as the androgyne, which in alchemical symbolism represents the perfect union of masculine and feminine opposites, a state of completeness and wholeness that symbolizes the successful culmination of the alchemical great work. This divine hermaphroditic figure, also known as a rebis, signifies the reconciliation of spirit and matter. The same alchemy in which an early version of a certain symbol also appears. And this union between the masculine and feminine opposites has been something that Prince has been toying with for a long time. For instance, in the song Vagina that was released in 2019 on the 1999 Super Deluxe edition, which tells the story of a character who is neither a boy or a girl. And going forward in Prince's career, you can see many examples of photo shoots that mirror the rebis. And going forward in time, the rebis turns into Prince with 2 women by his side. And as time progresses, they start to look more and more like each other, ending with actual twins. And speaking of twins, have you ever noticed that Prince turned the women around him into a reflection of himself? Literally mirror versions. For instance, see how many times Wendy is wearing Prince's clothes during the 1984 to 1986 tours. Or is it vice versa? A striking detail, of course, is that at that point in time, Prince was in a relationship with Wendy's identical twin sister Susanna. And in the Girls and Boys music video, Wendy even seems to be the literal cross between Prince and Susanna. And 1 year later, when Wendy and Susanna are out of the picture, Prince opts for his most flashy female alter ego yet. And once again you might say, well, this is all a bit far-fetched, and it might be true. But even at this point in time, Prince was toying with the idea of using symbols instead of names. So just take a look at the symbols Prince assigned his band members at the time. Each band member was given their own symbol, a star for Michael, a diamond for Sheila, etc. Cat is the only one who shares a symbol with Prince, a heart. This insinuates that they are very much meant to be 2 sides of the same character. And it just keeps continuing after that. Which finally brings us to the Tora Tora character that this presentation is about. A few years ago I did a presentation at the Shhh30 symposium in which I proposed that the prince in My Name is Prince could also be referencing the Prince of Egypt, Moses. Today I'd like to take it one step further. Even though we see the character with the chain head be destroyed in the 7 music video, I believe Tora Tora is a continuation of the character in a way. Check out how the character reappears on the cover of the MPLS single, which has the same letters in the artwork as the Exodus CD in the background. Check it out, it's exactly the same. And not only is Tora Tora once again performed by both a male and a female, but also, like the chain mask character, the face remains hidden all the time. And of course it makes sense that in a time when Prince as a symbol referred to himself as slave, that a Moses-like character leads the way to freedom, the Exodus, that is the second New Power Generation album. And there's the name, of course. Moses was the one who wrote the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, of which Exodus is one book. But maybe Prince had been watching the war movie Tora Tora Tora, and in Japanese, Tora is the word for tiger. Although within the context of that movie it's actually an abbreviation of the 2-syllable code word that I can't pronounce, but it means lightning attack. And in many ways Prince was attacking his label at the time, with music that they didn't see coming, with a character they didn't see coming. And I remember that we as an audience also didn't see it coming. Actually, we didn't even notice it when it was happening right in front of our faces. I remember the shows 30 years ago, and back in the day we really had no clue what was going on. The internet was as good as non-existent, and when we saw Prince play the ultimate live experience shows here in Europe, it was a real visual distinction between his slave persona, playing songs from the Gold Experience, and Tora Tora, freeing the MPG through the songs from the Exodus album, complete with scarf to hide the face. I truly think no one was noticing what he was trying to do there. I know I didn't. It all started to make sense, or actually become more confusing, when the Exodus album was promoted with TV performances by Tora Tora, as well as a signing session in which the character had his own autograph. This is the first and only time a Prince alter ego had a signature. One other thing to note is that, like Gemini, most of the time Tora Tora had a light and a dark side. So who the fuck is Tora Tora? My guess is that the character was just another embodiment of Prince's supposed dissociative identity disorder. And just like Moses, this alter ego never got to see the promised land, because by the time emancipation set Prince free from slavery, the character had disappeared. And with it, all the other egos disappeared from Prince's body of work. He remained the symbol throughout the 1990s, and one can argue that Symbol made a few albums after that as well, but that's for another time. So from Jamie Starr to Camille to Tora Tora and all the others, if Prince indeed had a form of dissociative identity disorder, these characters were all real. And giving them a voice and a face, or even projecting them onto others, might have been his way to cope with that. This is a part of Prince's personality that remains underexposed in the numerous biographies that have been published, and I've just been scratching the surface here today. I hope someone will take a deeper dive one day, as Tora Tora was the last time a persona truly made it to the surface for the world to see. And that's why Exodus is a pivotal album within Prince's body of work. To me, more pivotal than the Gold Experience. And that's all for me today. I hope you can discuss this more in the comments and maybe later in the Q&A. Well, for now, thank you, D'Angela, for inviting me once again. It's been a pleasure, as always. And to all of you, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see each other somewhere online. Bye-bye.